okay, this one's going to get me going. I fully agree with this. This for me is probably the most useful response. That's harsh. That's harsh and also untrue. I mean, this is, to me, some of the most damaging kind of advice you can receive. Hey, I'm Phil Drinkwater. I'm an ADHD business coach, which means I hang around with a lot of people who have shiny object syndrome, and one of them is me. I wanted to talk today through some of the sometimes questionable advice that I see on Reddit. Sometimes actually I would say it can be quite damaging to people because it doesn't show them that they can choose the path that they really want to go down. And for me as an ADHD person, it's really important to believe that I can choose the path that I want. Let's get into this. So first one, how to deal with shiny object syndrome. I'm constantly switching to new paths in my mind. I've always struggled to stay in a job past 2 years as I get bored and frequently long for a new thing. I've had a lot of interests and some variety in my working life, but nothing seems to stick. Always had an interest in entrepreneurship, but my lack of ability to focus on anything for too long seems like a significant barrier. Really, really important words there in starting my own business someday. And they mention later on they really value freedom and control over schedule. That's the reason that most people want to become an entrepreneur, particularly ADHD people. It's the need which we believe is so important to us because we don't want to be doing stuff that feels uncomfortable for us for the rest of our lives. If your boss says, oh, go and copy this data from here to here, that's horrendous for an ADHD person, but you have to do it. So you want this control, you want this freedom. So here's what people have said. You can choose, said, you should try avoiding the news, TV, radio, newspaper for 3 months. Now that'll be a distraction point, and distraction is something that is quite important when it comes to being able to focus. So there's some truth behind this. The more we distract ourselves visually, the more we distract ourselves with things like TikTok and YouTube, you're here with me, the less we can focus on which are going to be actually useful for us, because ADHD brains are particularly wired to focus on things that are interesting over things that are important. So you might say, well, it's important to go and get my taxes done or my tax return done for my business, but it's much more interesting to go and record a YouTube video or watch YouTube or watch TikTok or reply to some Facebook stuff. So there's an element of truth in this. Next one by State Dear. Who are you kidding? You know, nothing said here will redirect your personality onto a different track. You're just going to keep doing what you do now. That's harsh. That's harsh and also untrue. Reality is that about 50% of entrepreneurs are ADHD, or that's the best guess that we think we've got. And many entrepreneurs carve out a very successful living for themselves. Not everyone makes it to Richard Branson levels of having their own island and all of that kind of stuff. But you know, my own business has done $20 million in sales over the years, and plenty of other ADHD and autistic people have been very successful in business. The reality is that there's an element of truth in this. It's the bit where they said redirect your personality. Yes, your personality, more specifically your brain wiring, is how it is. You're not going to change your brain wiring. Meds can help, and some ADHD people choose to take them to help them gain a little bit of focus. However, from a coaching perspective, the answer is to look at it from another way, which is how can I design a business and a life which fits around my ADHD? And that comes from understanding, you know, your unique strengths, both in terms of your brain wiring and your personality. The reality is that we struggle often when we come out of employment. Now, some ADHD people have never had a job. Those that have come out of employment and realize that they are now accountable to themselves. And that can be very difficult for ADHD people. We struggle with getting started with things. It's a lot easier to get told what to do. So there's no doubt that ADHD people can find it a little difficult to start going with their entrepreneurial journey. But if they can start to make even some money, things change quite quickly. The third comment, Ordinary Games, says, I always tell myself the boring stuff is the price I pay to get to do the fun stuff. I hate UI and I love systems. I'm a full-time indie dev, formerly a graphic artist, so all my problems are my problems and they all need to be fixed. The boring stuff is the price they pay to do the fun stuff. Well, if you're a solopreneur, that will always be the case. You have to do an element of both. But as you grow your business and learn how to hire effectively and to run a team as an ADHD person, then you can leave the boring stuff for someone else to do. Now, day one in your business, you might have no choice, but one of the options that I always give people is to say, well, how about you go and create a stepping stone business? Use your skills. This person loves systems and hates doing, UI stuff. So maybe they eventually will build a business where they hire someone else to go and do the UI stuff. In the early days, go and use your skills, which is as a developer. But it's really important to get enough money in to have a high enough hourly rate that you can start to hire someone else just to get you started. That's how ADHD people successfully start a business. So let's get on to the next one. Does anyone experience this? I think it's called shiny object syndrome, but not just that. You start a new project, everything is challenging, work on setting up complex mechanics, very intense work, yet you push through it as needed for weeks on end. But once the basic mechanics are set up and now comes the easy part, you get bored and feel like moving to the next challenge. When it comes to then making it a finished project with all the details, you get bored. Okay, so this is an ADHD person who maybe doesn't find it so difficult to get started on a project because they're doing things that are interesting for them. But as soon as they move into the mid phase of the project, they start to struggle because all of the challenge and the dopamine and all of that kind of stuff is just gone. The things that they need have started to reduce. So what have people said about this? This is why I partner with a game designer. It's fun to program the engine, that's problem solving, but actually game designing, coming with levels, no. You'll make them work, but can't handle the tedium of designing all of the things yourself. That's a great approach. Partnering with someone else who can go and do those things, that's their strengths and what they want to do in life. Someone else says, sorry, that's the lie you want to tell yourself. The first part might be the most interesting, but not the most challenging. The real challenging is finishing things. Maybe split your game dev time half time you try new and interesting things, the other half you keep grinding on a project until it's done. I want to tackle the word grinding a little bit here. There's this thing really online where grinding is the answer to everything, and grinding, I mean, you think about it, it's almost like the idea of two things grinding against each other. I wonder whether that's where the words really come from, the friction that comes with it. Well, we typically don't have to have that friction. And that's why I would say that the previous response about, teaming up with a designer, someone whose skills and qualities complement yours rather than being something that you have to do yourself and grind through, I'd say that is a much more sensible approach. Now, there might be some times where you have to grind for a little while to do things, but if you're doing that for months and months on end, you are going to become burned out. It's going to be very difficult to handle. Now, this person suggests, splitting your time, half time doing, the grind, half time doing interesting things. It might be possible to do for a while, but I don't think it's the best solution from the perspective of your mental health. Okay, moving on to the next one. If you become successful, it becomes all about avoiding shiny object syndrome. This is a valuable lesson that I learned that I pass on to younger entrepreneurs. I recently sold an online business, started looking into ways that I could invest this money, started doing tons of research on how to buy real estate and maybe buying a business. Gotten bored and burnt out because it felt easy. They've been distracted by looking for other ways to start other businesses, and when they've had golden opportunity right in front of their eyes. It's been so fortunate to try to find something that they're gifted at and can excel in. The story of this is stick with your gifts to avoid shiny object syndrome. So my general feeling about this is that it's likely to be true for a lot of people. The solution to doing something for 20 years is to be doing things which align with you as a person. I speak to a number of entrepreneurs who've been in business for 5, 10, 15, 20 years even, and often they come to me because they've become unhappy, and they've often given away all of the things that they like doing to other people and kept all of the things that they don't like doing. So what do other people say? Never started a business or accomplished anything in my 24 years. I don't consider myself a loser, just have not got any wins, so I haven't built momentum to know what's been possible, but I'm always trying. I reached a point now that these thoughts really affect my heart. Whenever I'm now faced with this challenge or pressure, I feel it straight to my heart. So that's personality stuff starting to take on this feeling that you're going to be constantly unsuccessful, this fear that, you're incapable of achieving this. Reason why is because I work on things and all promises are empty and there's no accomplishment. This does sound like someone who might be ADHD. Now I'm trying a new endeavor in weight loss because it's an established market and appears to be a starting point to get my foot in the door to making money online and starting an online business. Now I'm completely stuck. I had a good idea, but the details of it have now overwhelmed my heart. This speaks to so much of what shiny object syndrome is about. As ADHD people, we struggle with 12 executive functions, depending on how you want to define them, something like that. And emotional regulation is a challenge for us. Memory challenges can be in there as well. Focus, starting tasks, planning, prioritization, all of those things. Goal-directed action, which is your long-term plans. These are all real challenges for us. And we might, in a flash of inspiration, see ourselves running this business and going, yeah, I can be successful with that. I know exactly what to do. And then you try and start. So as ADHD people, we know we're here, but we see ourselves all the way out here. But the bit in between can be incredibly difficult to try and work out. And we try and work the whole thing out in one go. So our brains are very good at almost like multi-dimensional thinking. So we can come up with a lot of solutions to quite complex problems. But when something is very, very complex, we still believe we can go and achieve it. Like, I'm here now, I'm going to have success in 5 years, and I can work out the entire path there. But you can't, because the world will have changed between now and then. You will have got competitors, maybe some knowledge that you're missing. I mean, you can't go from A to B in one step. And so people tend to get shiny object syndrome because of this. They get overwhelmed by the idea of this business and trying to get to this imaginary point in the distance, and then think, I can't do this, so they switch to another idea. If we think of it differently, it's much more useful. So instead of thinking about the 10,000 steps between here and there, maybe think about the 5 steps or 6 steps, really major top-level steps. Then break down the ones that are closest to you into 5 more, and maybe again, into 5 more. Because you don't need to know every step between now and 5 years' time. You just have to have some kind of North Star leading you in a rough direction, and knowing you're going to get to the right place roughly by taking this journey, these 5 main steps. You do need to know what you want to be doing this week. And that's why, as it gets closer to now, you can put more and more detail in. And your brain can handle that, and it's a lot less overwhelming. Now, you might still struggle with planning and prioritization. You might, if you're new to business, still not know a lot of stuff that you need to know. How do I market? How do I sell? What's really important? But the first year and a half of building a business is normally picking up those skills. My second business, which is coaching, I've had a very successful business before, but I kind of was starting again because I don't know the coaching industry, or I didn't. I didn't understand what it wanted. I didn't understand what people bought. I didn't understand why they bought it. It's very good at my old business, but that was, that came over a lot of years. In the first year and a half, I didn't know anything about that industry either. So it can take a lot of time to kind of get through that stuff. And the shiny object syndrome also can come from an idea that we've been unsuccessful too early on. And so you can get to this point where you feel like it's not sensible for you to carry on, and then you're looking for the next business idea, the one that will work, when in actual fact you might not have given the first one enough time. Anyway, the next person suggests take emotion out of the equation, apply logic. Being this emotional in business is a sure way to never get started or finish. Well, ADHD people don't do well with emotions often. We struggle with our emotions more so than neurotypical people will do. So that's advice that someone probably is incapable of following. And to go on to the final comment here, yeah, to go along with this sentiment, it's not always going to be about living the dream, following your passion, or doing something you love to do every day. It's about making money. Once you're rich, you can put more time into passion projects. I struggle with this because there's a business out there which is right for you and is more comfortable for you as a person and closer to the needs that you have in life. Now, maybe I'll explain that a little bit, what I mean by the needs you have in life. So our brains are needs meeting machines. So we need water, we need food. If we don't have those, we experience thirst and hunger. But if you don't have emotional or financial security, you might experience anxiety. So our anxiousness is an emotion that the unmet needs we have in life is highlighting. If we understand ourselves well enough, we can design a business that is right for us, enough of a passion project, or something again that might be a stepping stone to getting us there and having a team around us, or something else. There's a better solution than just saying you can't have what you want. I'm fundamentally opposed to that general view. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Who else suffers from shiny object syndrome? I wanted to start a business ever since I graduated high school. I get an idea and start working on it, but then shortly lose motivation when I don't see the results and I move on to a different idea, which goes back to the point that I was just making a few minutes ago. Or I will have multiple ideas I want to do at once, but cannot find the time to do that, so I kind of just half-ass them and see no success. Do any of you suffer with the same problem, and how do you get past it? These would be very common things for someone who is ADHD, by the way. I'm not here to diagnose anyone, but that would be a very common theme. So let's see what people said. If you want to build something that will bring in great money, you're not going to build it in a weekend. Very true. Moreover, your first venue will likely fail. That might be true. And your second. I'm 11 years into entrepreneurship and I'm hitting my groove and it's really great. Lots of ease and fun and money. I struggled for years. Entrepreneurship is self-discovery journey. I thoroughly agree with that. It is. What you do in anything, you do in everything. I think that's a Tony Robbins quote that I've heard, and it is true. Now they come on to, you have a focus muscle and it sounds underdeveloped. Just as you wouldn't expect an untrained bicep to curl 100 pounds, you shouldn't expect yourself to focus on someone who's been working on it. You're not going to develop a focus muscle. You can't change your brain wiring in that sense. Set a long-term goal and dedicate yourself to figuring it out. Now, I would look at this more in terms of needs. I would say your long-term goals actually should be meeting your needs in life and understanding, those things. Grind and learn. Grind, again, this word that everyone seems to suggest. You've just got to put yourself through uncomfortable emotions for months and years to get there. I don't think that's true at all. If you understand yourself, then you can go and design the life and business which is going to be most successful. You're suffering common lack of perseverance syndrome, lack of discipline. Oh, okay, this one's going to get me going. It's just like starting a gym. At first you're motivated, 3 months top you're out for any of the excuses/reasons you already listed and more. The key to getting things done, like fitness, is perseverance and consistency. Learn to gain discipline and decide to commit to finish something or don't do it at all. Absolutely wrong. So wrong. Maybe that works for neurotypical people, but not for ADHD people ever. This is not the solution to your challenges in business. And I've spoken to hundreds of entrepreneurs and done many hundreds of hours of coaching with them. And they all come to me, not all of them actually, that's a bit of a grandiose statement. Many of them come to me thinking that the only way to succeed is to grind, is to learn discipline, is accountability. Many of them come to me looking for accountability coaching. And I think the answer for ADHD people is really a flexi schedule, not forcing yourself to do this thing at this time on this day, but saying, well, I need to do it this week sometime, or this in the next few weeks or something. Because as I say, sometimes I'm in the mood and sometimes I'm not, but I still get through all of the stuff that I need to do by not creating more resistance within myself, because our brain wiring as ADHD people, as I've said, is always going to be like that. This is not something you can change. What you can do though is build up more and more resistance to work, which is only going to make things worse for you over the years and decades. So this is likely to lead you to a significantly less success. Okay, carrying on. This isn't easy. Many go to boot camp or hire trainers or partners to force each other to help gain discipline. I've received help, and I've also pushed others till they gained discipline and became independent. Otherwise, what you're describing, the typical average human being behavior, which should be remedied by all means, because being average sucks. I mean, this is, to me, some of the most damaging kind of advice you can receive. This is not true at all. You can design a life and business which is right for you, and you don't have to grind, and you don't have to be hard on yourself. A few more. The 3 qualities needed for a great business: innovation, technical, and marketing. Usually people have 1 or 2, rarely all 3. There's an element of truth in that. I don't think innovation is needed for a great business. I think you can go and do something the same as other people. I think if you're starting something completely new, fresh, it's great, but I would say sales and marketing I actually think are more essential. I think you have to remove the shiny objects, get rid of those things, and give yourself no choice but to focus on the important stuff. Again, our brains are wired for interest over importance. So it's not going to work for ADHD people. I have this in my current job as a product developer. So many project ideas and there's no resources to work on them. What works is the following process. Keep a log of ideas to work on. Categorize them with the following criteria: opportunity size, difficulty, time to complete, be honest and conservative. Prioritize based on the criteria. The best would be a huge opportunity that's not too difficult with a low time commitment. I like that. That's something that I think many ADHD people's brains could get around. But I also think an important thing in there is this difficulty thing that they're talking about, using as part of the scale to measure things on, has to be difficulty for you as an ADHD person. It's difficulty to get started before you can go and get enough money to hire staff. I think difficulty needs to be defined for you very individually and not for other people. Next one. What you're talking about is 100% an issue within the entrepreneur community. It's also part of the reason we purchase already established companies. But there's something to understand. If you start a simple enough business, you can profit even the same day or hour as starting a business. I fully agree with this. This for me is probably the most useful response. Every business we've ever started was incredibly simple. This is what we do. This is how we profit. Business in the beginning should always be so simple that even a caveman can do it. If you're not profiting right up front, you're doing something wrong. Right up front might be a little strong, but I do believe, this is the answer for so many ADHD people. I think the key element for me with all of this stuff on Reddit is that there are some people who clearly don't understand ADHD at all. And many ADHD people will experience shiny object syndrome because we have highly creative brains. It kind of comes with the territory of being an entrepreneur with ADHD. I think we all experience an element of shiny object syndrome, but once our businesses start to gain some success, our brains stop throwing us lots of new ideas and we become creative within that business. And that's when things start to be really successful. We probably still have an element of shiny object syndrome within the business. We might suddenly say one day, oh, great, I've come up with this brilliant idea. And then you impulsively decide to almost like completely change your business. And then 2 days later, you're going, why did I do that? So I think there is an element that always going to be there. But if we can calm this impulsivity that we have within our businesses over time and get to the stage where we are hiring a team, I think entrepreneurship is the best answer for ADHD people. And I just want to finish on one final point here. It's really important to realize that moving from a solopreneur to a business can mean nothing more than hiring 1 hour of someone a week or a month or whatever it is. I think a lot of entrepreneurs do get quite scared when I use the term team and they start to think of full-time employees and offices and, and dealing with people's pension forms and all of that kind of stuff. Well, none of that is absolutely necessary for you. So you can get to this stage where your business is no longer just reliant on your focus. It can be other people and your team who are driving some elements of the business. And certainly from my own perspective in my business, I obviously get involved at the strategy level. I obviously get involved at the task level. I'm doing that right now. This is me doing a task level task. But the management bit in the middle is where I would always struggle most. I know how to manage people. I've been a project manager at one point. I was pretty good at it because I was doing it for some other people, although I hated it. But I recognize that it's not my skill set. It's not something that I will succeed with. So I've completely changed my approach over the years. And I do get involved in all the strategy and the decision making because it's my business and it's my strategy. And I do work in my business as well. When I'm working in my business, I just don't do anything in this management layer at all. This is not my skill set and better for other people. So I hope that's given you some thoughts on shiny object syndrome and how it relates to ADHD people and entrepreneurship. I don't think it's necessary to grind. Maybe a little bit, but not too much. If there's too much friction in your business, that's one of the reasons that shiny object syndrome starts to appear. And I think it's really important for us to recognize and honor that. Catch you in the next video.